Brilliant. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Innovation Network October meeting. So it's great to have you all with us today. As you can see from the screen in front of you, today we're going to look at the Public Service Innovation Strategy. And in particular, we're going to speak to Clare County Council, who have recently developed and are in the process of implementing their innovation strategy. So we're also joined by Cillian Leonowicz from EY, who has worked with Clare County Council on their innovation strategy and has also helped us develop the Public Service Innovation Strategy. If you go on to the next slide there, Ron. So before we go any further, I just want to give a quick background to the Public Service Innovation Strategy. So it was released in December 2020 and it seeks to foster, embed and support innovation across the public service and position Ireland to be a world leader in public service innovation. So the strategy contains 4 priorities. The first one is citizen-centric innovation, which involves putting users at the centre of innovation to enhance their experience of public services. The second priority is to build a culture of innovation across the public service and to support staff to be inspired, empowered and enabled to innovate. The third priority then is scale up innovation, and this involves working across sectors and organisations to optimise efficiency and scale innovations across the public service. And then finally, the fourth priority is transformative innovation, which involves driving innovation across the public service by pioneering change and long-term transformation. If you go on to the next slide there, Ron. So in addition to the strategy, we've also prepared a number of tools and resources to support public bodies to develop their own strategies and drive innovation within their organisations. And I know Clare County Council are going to talk a little bit more about their experiences of using these documents, but just briefly I'll highlight some of the documents that we have available on our website for public organisations to use. So we've obviously got the Making Innovation Real strategy document itself, and we then have a guidance document that public bodies can use to develop their own innovation strategy. We've the innovation canvas, and this can help you identify initiatives that you're already doing within your organisation to actualise innovation. We have the innovation snapshot tool, which will support you to conduct innovation maturity assessment within your organisations. There's a couple of templates and Gantt charts that will enable you to map and plan your innovation strategy document and then work on its implementation. And then finally, we have our innovation scorecard, which was developed with our colleagues in Enterprise Ireland. And this is a self-assessment tool that can support organisations to review their innovation capability and capacity. And we hope to have a session on the innovation scorecard in the coming months. So I'm going to hand over to the guys in Clare County Council. Only if you could just move on to the next slide so I can introduce everybody, and then I'll let them take the floor. So joining us today from Clare County Council, we have Noeleen Fitzgerald, Director of Service, who's also the sponsor of the Innovation Strategy for Clare County Council. And we're joined by Noeleen's colleagues, Colette Costello, Alfie Jones and Niamh Madden. And then, like I said, we're also joined by Cillian Leonowicz from EY, who helped Clare County Council to develop their innovation strategy and also worked on developing the Public Service Innovation Strategy, Making Innovation Real. So before we hand over to the team, I just want to do a couple of housekeeping bits. So Owen, if you could move on to the next slide. So please remember to keep your microphones muted throughout the presentations. You can submit any questions for the panelists in the chat function on the screen and address them to the host so that we can see them and ask them at the end of the session. And then we are also recording this and we'll make it available on our website and YouTube channel over the next day or so. So I'll hand over now to yourself, Cillian, and we'll chat at about 10 to 1 then for a Q&A session. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jade, and morning, everybody. I suppose just to kick off from this side, what we'll do first is we'll just share the screen and make sure people can see the slides that we're going to share. But I'm going to hand over fairly quickly to the sponsor of the programme from Clare County Council, Noeleen Fitzgerald, who's going to take us through kind of the introduction and the overview in terms of why the council and how the council put the strategy together and why it was so important at this time. So, up to you, Noeleen.
Okay, thanks, Cillian, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a great opportunity to just share our experiences with the team. I suppose we started here back in 2018 in Clare County Council in establishing a business review team, and that team was within corporate services working on looking at our municipal district structures. We established a project management office and did project management training. We also had a digital strategy and a digital unit, and we were ahead of the curve in some ways, and we're the first council to have a rural directorate. And then some of us, you know, we were on the journey when we attended the deeper workshop on the innovation strategy, and we saw this as an opportunity to encompass business review with bigger innovation thoughts, because you know, it is, and the future, because it isn't just about business review. Innovation is bigger, and you can see that from the pillars, the citizen-centric, scaling up innovation, and having the culture. And then COVID came along, and we did in a week across all local authorities, which probably would have taken us some years to do. All of a sudden, we all could work from home, and we want to now continue on this. So the innovation strategy, what the experiences of COVID is, let's keep going and getting people to think about innovation, not just doing the same thing all the time and expecting different results. So that's where we were coming from in engaging with Cillian to look at this. And I suppose what I'd say to you here before I hand over to my colleagues to go through how we did it is, as I said, innovation, it's bigger than business review. You do need everybody on board, your director of the service, your management team. But we set up a team for innovation, representative of all directorates. And to get people thinking around economic development, physical infrastructure, and that the development of the strategy with Cillian gets you thinking about that. It gets you thinking about who your customers are, who the citizens are, but also as public service, looking at other authorities, looking at other public services and what they've done. And when you see what we could do ourselves as a sector during COVID for the restart grants, well, that should be there infinitum now as a platform. Or if you look at what the health service could do in relation to video consultation with its patients or with GPs with their patients, why can't we do that as counties with customers who want to talk to us about our services? So this is the idea. But what's central to it is your team in thinking, what can we do differently? How can we do it? And that's where we went one step further in our innovation strategy, in that we put out a call for ideas to all our sections here through the team to come up with how we could do things differently, how we can do things better, and then putting a plan in place. So that's really why we've gone about it and why we embraced the whole idea, because as I said, we were already on the journey, but we saw greater opportunities in bringing it all together. So we have a plan into the future. So that's why we did it. And I think the team are going to go into a little bit more detail on this presentation. And as you go through it, I mentioned personas, I mentioned we SWOT analysis of the county. It becomes clearer. But just keep in your head, it's not just about business review, it's about innovating how we do our business for our customers. So thank you.
That's great, Noeleen. So absolutely spot on. And I suppose just to go back in terms of the context, so where all this came from. So in January of 2020, I was asked to take on a project with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform to look at how we would develop a strategy for innovation for the public service. And in our first meeting with Laura Mahoney and Philip McGrath, deeper with Dr. Lucy Fallon-Byrne, who's since retired, Dr. Lucy was very keen to point out that we've got to make innovation real. It has to become embedded in the culture and everyday organisation and life of different public service entities, because effectively we're at an inflection point. And that inflection point is that digital technologies are becoming available. The citizen and users of services are being a whole lot more inquisitive. They want transparency. They want to be able to have the same experience effectively that's created by different organisations and different capabilities, whether that's their social media or whether that's, you know, the day-to-day interactions they have with other companies. So really that was kind of the backdrop and the background. The project started on the 27th of November 2020. Within 6 weeks of that, we had all gone into lockdown whenever it was, around the 15th of March. And in that period, we saw tremendous innovation across the public service and across the public sector. When I think of all the different things that were done, I know when we put the programme together, we had 4 pilot organisations. We had Monaghan County Council, we had the LGMA, we had the court services, and we had the Department of Agriculture. And just to kind of quickly touch on some of the innovations that they brought in that time, the Department of Agriculture had just set up a new call centre. That new call centre, with isolation and rural farmers in particular being so isolated in this time of tumultuous change, was so important just that they were able to change and pivot that service to almost become a helpline to affect the most vulnerable in their community. And that was fantastic to see. We saw the court service turning on the full capability of digitising the courts in terms of prisoners not having to be taken into courthouses, in terms of being able to arrange the Supreme Court and the High Court in camera settings with WebEx and whatever else. And really just, it was amazing to see the level of innovation that was put together, and it was a credit to the public service in totality. But really, I suppose what it proved was that the innovation is there, it's latent, it's just about bringing it out, it's about empowering organisations to be able to do it and develop a pathway. And really that was the purpose of this project. It was about making innovation real. And as I say, that was really, really key. With that, I'm just going to go on to the slides, and Jade has touched on these already, but effectively we started out with a high-level guidance pitch or scoping meeting with Dr. Lucy. And this was the key point. It was about how do we make innovation real, that this is fundamentally about our public service. And it's about delivering today, because we have to deliver today, but also shaping tomorrow. How are we going to position our own organisations and how are we going to drive change for tomorrow? Very much akin to what Noeleen would have just touched on in terms of thinking about this as the organisation and innovation in totality, and really thinking about that. Within that then, we developed a vision. And the vision of for the strategy was to harness the power of innovation to deliver world-class public services in Ireland. And the real key word there for me is harness, because again, it implies that innovation is there, and we saw that through COVID, that it is there. It's just about how we bring it forward and how we bring it out in organisations. And then also deliver world-class public services, so that we wouldn't just say we want to be as good as our neighbours or we want to be as good as, a benchmark. This is really about how do we deliver world-class public services. Underneath that, as Jade mentioned, we then identified that there were going to be 4 priority areas. The first of these was citizen-centric innovation. And this is putting the citizen and users at the centre of innovation to enhance the experience of public services. This is thinking that is being used now across industries, not just the public service and government services. If we look at different organisations, they're all trying to put the customer at the centre of everything that they do and orientate the services and their platforms around them. And it goes back to agile thinking and design thinking and customer experience. And really, that's what it's about. How are we delivering for the end customer or the citizen of the service? And sometimes that customer may be internal, and it might not always be externally facing, but it's really putting the citizen or the user at the centre of everything that we do. The second priority that we had then was to develop a culture of innovation. So how can an organisation develop a culture? And it was really looking at that culture where staff are inspired, empowered and enabled. I think those 3 words are really important. That one, inspiration to do this, that we don't have to think, well, because that's always the way we did it, that we can't change. Well, absolutely we can. If there's a better way of doing it, let's find it, let's figure it out. Secondly, the people are empowered to do it. So that's a couple of things. I suppose one, it's having the ability to be able to bring an idea or a concept from fruition right through to the delivery or deployment, as I would call it in management consulting speak. And then to enable that innovation. So to get the team around it to be able to bring it to life. Within that then we had 2 goals, and I know I didn't call out the goals in the previous priority, but I think these ones are really important to dwell on. The first is to lead with vision, empower staff and challenge the norm. So that's really a piece around leadership. So is leadership giving the vision, empowering its staff and challenging the norm? So that's kind of a top down. But in equal measure, we've got goal 2.2, which is to equip staff with the skills, the mindset and the tools to innovate. Because people have to have the psychological safety to do this. And it was very interesting, when we did the project with the 4 pilot organisations, we surveyed about 1,500 staff members. And one of the things that did come out of that, when we surveyed people, is when we asked them, do you innovate, or do you think about innovation or bringing forward new ideas? There was a lot of risk aversion in the public service in terms of people saying, well, actually I'd be afraid, because what if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't work? I don't want to end up on the front of, on the broadsheets on Monday morning because I failed or whatever it is. And that's not what it's about. It's about equipping people with the skills, the mindset, and then being able to provision them with the ability to take an idea through, to have the checks and balances against it right throughout it. But that we wouldn't just stop because we think, we're going to end up on the front of the paper or something like that if it all goes wrong. So really it's top down and bottom up. One of the things I really remember from that session when we went through that priority 2 and the culture of innovation with Dr. Lucy was this idea that frontline staff have to be equipped to innovate. And why is that? Because they are seeing service delivery on a daily basis. They're interacting with the public. They're, delivering a service in a hospital, or it could be a guard member, or it could be whoever it is. They really are seeing how processes, services are delivered. And if they can see a better way of doing it, chances are, because they're on the front line, that is the better way to do it in many instances, because they just see the process in action. So really taking people's ideas and being able to empower them to deliver. The next priority then, priority number 3, was to scale up innovation. So this was the concept where we'd work across sectors and organisations to optimise efficiency by scaling those innovations across the public service. The best example that we had of this during the project was the work that the courts have done with the revenue commissioners. So the courts were looking at jury summonses. So we've probably all received one at some stage in the post during our lifetimes. And traditionally they would have all been done by the local courthouse. So we're here in Ennis today, so the Ennis courthouse is actually just in the road from us. They would have identified the people who need to be called for jury service. They'd send a letter, and then the letters would come in. The local district court or the circuit court clerk, whoever it was, they'd identify a list, they'd bring the people in, and they'd select the jury. What was decided or was identified was, well, why do we need all these districts? Why do we need all of these individual courthouses sending out these letters? Why don't we centralise it? So they must have lower crime rates or something up in Castlebar, because Castlebar was selected. There must have been a bit of bandwidth up there. So Castlebar was selected, and the service was run out of there. And then the next step that the courts had was, well, what do we need now to provision this? So they said, right, well, it comes down to the printing of the letters and actually getting them to people who've been summoned for jury service. So there was one of these similar events happening in Dublin, and one of the senior leads in the courts got chatting to one of the senior operational leads in the revenue commissioners. The revenue commissioners had just installed a new print works for all of the documentation that would go out from the revenue. And they said, well, why can't you just send us the files? We'll do the printing and then we send it out. So again, it's just leveraging the capability that's in the system. I suppose drawing the links, joining the dots, I suppose, to be able to deliver that. And it's really about scaling up that innovation. So within that scaling up innovation, then we have kind of those 2 goals. One is to connect and to collaborate across the ecosystem to scale successful innovations. And the second is to capture and share the insights, the knowledge and the lessons learned. And we've seen that all too often, particularly in local authorities. Different councils will have done something. Someone else is maybe a little more mature or a little less mature in their journey. And again, there's great insights that can be learned and developed from that. So that was the goal number 3 in terms of collaboration and scaling up the innovation through that collaboration and lessons learned. And finally, then there was priority 4. Priority 4 is transformative innovation. Now, this was primarily for DEPA itself and government departments to look at. That said, there's nothing stopping each individual organisation from developing their own priority 4, which is transformative innovation. But really, it's a little bit more centralised. And it's to drive innovation across the public service by pioneering change and long-term transformation. There were 2 goals associated with this. The first one was to develop those insights for future trends and requirements. So I know the stakeholders in DEPA would have been talking a lot with the likes of the OECD and OPSI, looking at what is coming down the track in terms of international innovation for public service organisations, taking those ideas and then being able to use forums like this then to be able to share them. And the second was to support and promote policy for innovation, digital transformation and new ways of working through experimentation and continuous improvement. So that was the strategy itself proper. As Jade mentioned earlier on, then what we did was we created a toolkit which would enable organisations to effectively create their own innovation strategies. That tool set is available through the website, the OPS website. All the capability is there. Really, for me, it boiled down to the strategy development guidance document, which literally will walk you through everything left to right, from setting up a team right through to creating your own strategy and being able to do the downstream implementation. And then having tools then which are specified for different steps in the journey. It's a great document. And as I say, it's really content rich in terms of tools that you can use and develop. But really, it's to inspire organizations, each of you on the phone, to develop your own innovation strategies. And those innovation strategies don't have to be standalone. I know when we did the project itself with the 4 pilots, some of them consumed them into the commercial development, to their organization development plans. Others did have them as standalone documents. Here in Clare, it's going to be a standalone document as well. But what you can do is you can make sure that you're referencing back, tying back to existing work. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but what we are trying to do is just create an impetus for innovation and a framework to be able to support it. So what I'd encourage you all to do today is to look at it and to really think about how they can start using the tools. But the strategy itself, we developed what's called a fixed, flexible and free model. And the vision itself that we went through in terms of harnessing the power of innovation, that vision is fixed. So the idea there is that every public service organisation will have the same innovation vision. And with that then you'll develop your own ambition statement. And we'll come on to Clare's ambition statement a little later on. Underneath that then, the three priorities of citizen-centric innovation, collaboration and scaling innovation, they're also fixed. Because again, we want each organisation to be able to do it. Underneath that though, your goals, your actions and your implementation roadmap, they're either flexible or free. And the reason for that is, we knew that when we developed the project, no organisation was going to be the same. And secondly, you're all going to be at different stages and levels of maturity. Some of you, for example, might still be using paper and pen for certain records. Some of you might be using Excel. Some of you might have the latest and greatest in case management systems or whatever it is. So because of that different level of maturity and thought, we made these flexible, fixed and free. But you'll see that as you go through the documentation. And finally then, just to say that there is the Public Service Innovation Strategy Canvas is available. This will walk you through every step of developing your own innovation strategies. And it's really just a tool that's there to be used, I guess, to guide you, to provide the narrative, but also just to give you the shape on how you can develop this in line with what's being developed by Deeper and is being rolled out. I think it works well, but I'm going to leave that to colleagues here in Clare County Council to tell you how they got on and how we applied the tools, etc. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Alfie, and Alfie's going to walk us through how we put the strategy together and some of the tools and capabilities that we developed. So over to yourself there, Alfie.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Clare County Council. Just to say, it's been a fantastic event to be involved in, and we really did leverage the approach that we've taken for COVID and the transformation that brought about. The opportunities then to continue on with that, the innovation strategy has really helped us to make sure that we continue to change, and that transformation will continue in Clare County Council. The Deeper tool set has really been the basis of how we have approached this, and it really has guided us from start to finish, giving us the focus on citizen-centric, the culture of innovation and the scale of innovation. We had very, very clear goals in what we were trying to achieve, and the fixed, flexible, free move and free jobs that you could do, and that actually gave us a very clear focus on what we wanted to achieve, what our goals were and how we were going to achieve those, and what actions we were going to take. So really that Deeper tool set has guided us from the very start, the current state and the ambition of Clare County Council. The innovation team formation, which I think is a really important part, having the right people involved and getting everybody involved to get the ideas across all sections within Clare County Council. And that's something I think my colleague Colette will talk about in greater detail. But then the innovation strategy and the formation of reviews, again, with the clear guidance that we actually had there, it was very focused, and we took personas, which we will talk about later as well. And then basically how we developed that strategy and the sessions that we actually had to get everybody's views together, and they were supported by the document. But not only that, is we also used Mural as a digital whiteboard, which really worked well in the COVID environment, that we were able to actually gather the thoughts and understandings of people, and it was flexible and dynamic, actually more dynamic than previous exercises that I would have worked in, where we used the old-fashioned post-its. We were absolutely able to see the results in a far quicker environment. And then using Menti as well, again, this was something that we could very quickly gauge the feeling within the room of what were the priorities of the various sections, and come to that consensus of how we are going to deliver a service going forward, and how we're going to actually be innovative and change that to make it a citizen-centric service going forward. From those sessions, we came up with a plan, and that's now in the process of final review and leadership sign-off. I'll pass over to the team there on that.
Okay, so I work in the business review department, and I'm project lead on this project. I work closely with Nolan, who's sponsor, and my line manager, Reynolds, together with all of the innovation team. So I suppose we're very lucky in Clare County Council that there is a key interest and drive for innovation from our chief executive, Pat Dowling, right across and throughout the organisation, which helps in such a strategy. One of the first steps, I suppose, in this process involved the development or formation of an innovation group, which we felt was key to ensuring not only the development but the delivery of it. So I suppose, as the saying goes, behind every success is a great team. So while it is acknowledged that continued support and engagement from management and senior team are required, we felt it was equally important that people who are working on the ground, either engaging directly with our stakeholders, the general public, or be it that they work on business process systems, be they manual or automated, that these staff are the best placed to identify innovative ideas which can add value to the people we serve. So that value, I suppose, can be seen, be it greater access to services, more efficient, effective interventions, increased transparency and trust in our policy responses are the best in Clare County Council of unnecessary and cumbersome processes. So therefore, as you can see from the slide, that is the makeup of our team. There's a good mix with a number of admin staff. We've a rural community development officer. With me on the team, an engineer. With library staff. Missing out on everyone else specifically. So indeed, I suppose we've had a number of very positive interactive workshop sessions and feedback fed directly in and shaping our innovation strategy. The commitment from the group has been great, because it is acknowledged that people are busy in their own daily work lives. The positivity and energy at these sessions was really encouraging. And while we acknowledge we're at early stages of the delivery of the strategy, we feel that we have a great team who will work together to ensure its delivery, with continued support, I suppose, from senior and management team, which is critical. So on that note, I'll pass you over to to Alfie, who will take you through the approach. Thanks.
Thanks a million, Colette. One of the important parts of it was doing a SWOT analysis of our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities and threats. And again, the team was so important that we had a cross-representation across the full organisation, and I think that was achieved. And that openness as part of the team is really important as well, that people could talk in an open and frank manner, and basically, you know, everybody's opinion was important. Clare County Council, unique in our location, and there was lots of strengths that we identified, our location, our tourism, our low cost of living, blue flag beaches, business. I think also as well, there's many great opportunities, you know, and a lot of those have to do with the circular economy, the green initiatives, and we can work on those. And it was fantastic having the various representatives, whether it's the environment section or the road section, transport section, having all of those views and getting that mix in was really, really important. I think you could probably map a lot of those strengths with counties in the west of Ireland, and a lot of our weaknesses too. We do have a high dependency on Shannon Airport, and the disruption to the business in the airports has been a major challenge to Clare County Council, and that's something that we will be working with the airport and the tourism industry to work on. But all of the threats, all of the weaknesses, I think will be reflected across many of the councils across the west of Ireland. It is one thing, again, and the technology and the tools that we did, this is where the digital whiteboard really came into its own, in that we could correlate those in the digital world using Teams, and to be able to correlate this information very, very quickly. And again, review it, make sure that people were comfortable with what was being said, get the consensus of what are the challenges, what are our strengths. Let's work on those strengths to actually bring Clare forward with innovation and providing that citric-centric services. We then moved on to the personas, and really working on the personas is looking at that citric-centric. There is no single citizen, no matter where the authority is. So we took a cross-section of an elderly person, a young couple, a businessman, and a couple in their mid-50s that are living in Clare as well. And looking at those personas, we then basically looked at what we're trying to achieve and what does Clare County Council need to do to deliver services to these particular people. So we're being inclusive of the citizens across the broad spectrum. It's not just concentrating on the business community. It's not just concentrating on the children. It was given from the retired person all the way down to the young couple. We brought into the requirements then as well around schools, hospitals. What does Clare County Council need to make sure that it's an environment to attract people to Clare, attract business to Clare, make it a better lifestyle for people in Clare? And looking at all of those things from schools to hospitals, making sure that people are aware that we do have good infrastructure, positive, making sure that people understand the positives, and let's work on those negatives as well. So for me, this worked really, really well because, you know, you concentrated on an older gentleman first. His sets of requirements are different to the young business person, but we have to get that balance right, that we make living an attractive, Clare, an attractive place to live for all of our citizens going forward. I think that persona was really, really important, that we could come up with the relevant projects that we needed to prioritise for Clare County Council. So in the snapshot, basically, again, working together online, and I have to say, it actually worked really, really well, and we had good guidance from the deeper toolkit, but also having Cillian in there as well guiding us did really work. You know, current initiatives, and what I would say to you there is, again, every council probably over the last 18 months has transformed the way that it's done business, and it's really important that we continue on that transformation program, and we leverage I think the flexibility and the change of the staff that has been so evident over the last 18 months, that we continue on that vein. So, you know, we've current initiatives going across the board, implementation of executive strategies, and it's really important that we bring those to fruition. We actually see the value and we see the deliverables. Digital enterprise, tourism obviously is a huge part of Clare County Council, and you know, there's lots of initiatives going on there. Service delivery and digital, and it's an area where I'm heavily involved with the a business process improvement team. We have delivered through COVID where we could actually say we're now delivering electronically. We've more to actually do there, but that's something that is improving. We're future focused. Going back to the personas, what services do we need to actually deliver going forward? And that's where the personas actually brought out what our priorities will be going forward. Again, organizational overview and organizational weaknesses. I think as an organization or a county council, and I've worked in a number of county councils, we have very similar strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes our strength can end up being our weakness. But we looked at those, we got to leverage those, and where we can actually make those improvements in organizing weakness, there is opportunity there. And I think the team that has come together as part of this process will be invaluable in driving those weaknesses into our strengths going forward. And again, enablers, identified what are enablers, but if you look, ICT is an enabler, working in that section, it can also be a barrier to it. I don't think it is a barrier, it's maybe people's perception of it being a barrier. So there's something that we need to make sure that we get that message out, that we can support people through the delivery of ICT. Funding came up as a barrier as well. However, we've got a significant funding in Clare County Council for a large number of initiatives. So all of those things, it really gives us a good template to look at where we are, what are our priorities, work on our strengths, make sure that we continue on with those, but also the weaknesses that we have there, we have opportunities to improve.
Alfie, that's fantastic in terms of going from that very, I suppose, macro view of the county in terms of what's happening, what's going on, thinking about, I suppose, the demographics and the social kind of landscape that we have in the county in terms of the people. And we use the tools then to be able to bring it down to, well, what does that mean within the organisation in terms of barriers, enablers, etc. So we did all the work. What was the result, Colette? Where did we get to?
Yeah. So I suppose we're delighted that we've got to this stage of the process and we have a strategy ready for launch. But I suppose we're by no means getting carried away. We're fully realised that it's a stepping stone on a long innovative journey. We really feel, I suppose, that the development of the strategy has given us a clear focus and direction, identifying key priorities, actions and timelines in line with DEEPR's recommendations. So I hope you like our slogan, raising the banner for innovation by embracing our unique environment, people and resources to deliver for Clare. And that was agreed, as I said, through the innovation team. So I suppose Niamh now will take us into how we developed one priority area with the strategy.
Thanks, Colette. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Colette said, I'm Niamh Madden and I'm Senior Executive Engineer with Clare County Council. And as Colette had already said, the group was formed with various people from different directorates. So when working in a municipal district, I have frequent interaction with elected members, with members of the public. So I'm at the cold face or front of house within the organisation, so to speak. So my focus today is going to be on how the Innovation Strategy Working Group, of which I was a part and everyone in this room was a part, how we ensure that we were actions focused and results orientated. So to put that more simply, in other words, how we made sure that what we devised, which was the innovation strategy, that this resulted in realistic, visible and achievable outcomes and results. So just going back to what I said a moment ago, I work in a municipal district. So this means that I have daily interaction with the public. So I have a very good sense and an understanding what the public want to see out in an area, what they want to see achieved on the ground. And I live in County Clare. I'm also a customer of my own local authority. And so is everybody else on the Innovation Strategy Working Group. And we had to step into the shoes and into the mindset of the public, of the customer, while also keeping our organisational hats on. We had to make sure that we asked the question, what do I, as a member of the public, and what do other members of the public want to see from this innovation strategy? And how is this innovation strategy going to help Clare County Council as an organisation to improve? I think that's a really key word here, improve. This strategy is all about improvement and how we improve what we do as an organisation on a constant basis. So, as Alfie mentioned already, we carried out a SWOT analysis on 4 fictional groups of people within the community with differing needs and requirements. And although they were fictional, they still represented real-life cohorts of the community. So we have to make sure that our strategy, that it has meaning, that it connects with the public, that it connects with the organisation, and that it creates achievable results for improvement. And the only way to create achievable results is to make sure that we have deliverable actions. So I'm going to look at how we, as a working group, how we were results orientated. I'm going to look at it from an overarching Clare County Council perspective, and then I'm going to look at it from a municipal district perspective where I work out on the ground. Now, the word action features really heavily within the framework of what we were trying to achieve. Our 3 weeks of workshops were action orientated, actions orientated. The subsequent leadership review involved reaffirming or redefining or maybe tweaking those actions. We now have an implementation plan and we'll be getting sign off. And again, this is a roadmap for actions. And then there'll be a further leadership review. And again, that will reaffirm, tweak, redefine our actions. So, Cillian, if you just wouldn't mind, maybe just going on to the next slide. I won't focus too much on the content of this slide. Cillian has it all covered in a lot of detail already, but I'll just briefly go through the 3 priorities again. These are set out by Deeper, and these are 3 priorities that we worked off. And I'm then going to focus on how Clare County Council developed a goal and subsequent realistic and achievable actions from priority 1. So priority 1, as you can see there on the screen, it's citizen-centric innovation. And this means that we as an organisation which puts users and citizens at the centre of innovation to enhance their experience of public service. Our goals under this then are to listen and engage with the citizens, and I'm going to focus a little bit more on that goal in a minute. And another goal of this is to design and deliver integrated and easy to use services. So the second priority is culture of innovation, and Cillian has already covered that. And the third priority, again, already covered, is scale up innovation. And this is what Clare County Council has embraced. We're attempting to optimise efficiency across the organisation. So might just move on to the next slide, Cillian, please. So if we look at Clare County Council as a whole, we need to ensure that that our actions, that they complement and that they're aligned with our policies, our plans, our goals, and our priorities as an organisation. So one of the goals in our innovation strategy, it was already mentioned by Cillian and on the previous slide, under our first priority is listen and engage with the customer. And we might think that we do this anyway as a matter of course. What's really innovative about this? But innovation, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. The strategy that we created in itself is innovative. So innovation is about new ways of doing things and ways to improve, that keyword, improve. So with this goal, this listen and engage with the citizen goal, we devised an action. So if you look at the second column, you can see the action is implement a CRM system to manage all customer interactions and to support service delivery. This would involve us capturing all customer interactions, obtaining customer feedback, and progressing an annual user satisfaction survey. So this is about using existing technology, and Alfie referred to that as well, within our organisation in an innovative way. We already have lots of CRM systems, but to collate them and to streamline them all into one central system is innovative. It's simple, it's effective, and it's an improvement, and it can be done by any organisation. It's not rocket science, but the main thing is it's improving the way that we do things. Now, it's all good and well to have these actions in the plan, but it's another thing to ensure that they're actually carried out and completed. So we allocated an action owner to this. If you look at the third column, you'll see that our action owner is all directorates. But we didn't stop there, and this is actually a really important thing. There's a specific person allocated to overseeing that this was done. In this case, it's Colette, my colleague here. So someone's taking ownership of this, doesn't get forgotten about it, doesn't fall into a black hole. So the next question in relation to this action is, how do we know whether we've been successful in carrying out this action? So if you look at the fourth column, you'll see the answer to this. This is to give a definitive benchmark. So we decided to create a success criteria, and we gave ourselves 5 months to complete the development cycle, and we aligned this with change management requirements. If you move on to the fifth column, you'll see that we provided a measurement. This was install, completion of testing, go live, training, and education of users. All very straightforward, all very simple. But the measurement is key to ensuring the success of this goal. And then finally, to ensure that this goal and the ultimate action is achieved, we give ourselves a deadline. Implementation by the end of 2022. There you have it, a realistic, achievable, proper action and a plan to achieve a goal to ensure improvement within Clare County Council. We're doing things better. So I'm just going to go back briefly to my work in a municipal district at the coalface of things out with the public. How does the organisation show the actions to the public? So in a municipal district, I do road improvement works, for example. I might do overlays, surface dressing, maybe footpath improvement works, new footpath drainage works, and so on. And that's visible to the public. That's the evidence of what we do out on the ground. But we can do things better. I can do things better. And this innovation strategy, it's about tapping into the minds and into the brains of everybody in the organisation. This strategy is for everybody. It gives every single person a voice, and communication is key. It gives me, as a line manager, the tools in my department to encourage innovation. It creates a forum for innovation, and it's also a collaborative effort across the board. So in a municipal district, there are outdoor crews, there's an administrative team, and there's the technical team. And it's about all of us together, not just in a municipal district, but in the local authority, putting our ideas together, our new concepts, our visions, and making them a reality. We would never have got as far as we have today to be speaking to you about our innovation strategy if we didn't have the unwavering support of our Chief Executive, Mr. Pat Dowling, and of the senior management team. So not only were we given feedback and assistance through the leadership reviews, but we're also getting this help in other ways, through phone calls, senior management, meetings, emails, and so on. So Clare County Council is only at the beginning, but the road ahead is innovation. And we will keep going. We will keep continuing to innovate and to make those vital improvements. I'm just going to finish up with a quote that I think is really relevant. Thomas Edison, the famous inventor, he once said, there is a better way of doing it, find it. And I believe that's what we're doing as an organisation. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Niamh. So as you've heard, we have our innovation strategy with key priorities under the 3 different headings as set out by Deeper. So in order to ensure innovation is kept active and alive in Clare, we've identified some key steps. So Cillian, if you want to move on to the next step or slide there. So I suppose this is in order to ensure that innovation is kept alive and well in Clare County Council. So the first physical meeting of our group is scheduled for tomorrow. All of the other meetings have been held to date on Teams, so it'll be great to meet in person. With monthly meetings scheduled thereafter. We have an innovation budget will become part of the annual budget process. Delighted to have Nolan on board for that. We have 2 training sessions scheduled for our innovation group before year end. We're preparing a schedule of events for Innovation Week, which is the 8th of November. And we're hoping to want to launch our innovation strategy on that week. We have a couple of lunch and learn sessions throughout the organisation. We'll also be providing an innovation update on a quarterly basis on our banner bulletin. We hope to review the process for incentivising innovative ideas, maybe awards or whatever. And our sponsor, Nolan, will also ensure management team are updated on innovative activity, maybe on a quarterly basis or as required by management team. So one of the key actions as identified in our innovation strategy was a call for ideas. And we put that call out at our last innovation group meeting. And I suppose it's really encouraging to see the feedback. We got over 30 ideas and still receiving some from different sections. So each member of the group was tasked with reverting back to their teams for innovative ideas. So it involved cross-departmental engagement within directorates with huge support from senior and management team. So of the 30 submissions received, I've just extracted 3 there. So on the right hand side of the slide there, you'll see just 3, as I said, that I'll go through quickly. The first one is possibly a quick win. It relates to an ideas bank. So it's a centralized ideas bank where people can submit their ideas for possible future progression. This example is linked to priority 2 of Deeper's innovation canvas, creating a culture of innovation. And I suppose this is an action we feel will be welcomed by all staff across the organisation. As outlined earlier, we hope to review options for incentivising innovative ideas over the coming sessions. But we feel it's really important that staff come up with the idea, are appropriately recognised and feel safe to share their ideas. Cillian spoke earlier about that psychological safety. I know there's a stigma out there that if a project fails, it can be a deterrent, or people may be afraid that it's a stupid idea. So we want to encourage staff and reassure them that there's no such thing as a bad idea. There's no doubt we'll have failures, but I suppose we're adamant that we learn from those failures and go again. The second example is a medium category project. It's utilisation of technology to enable an independent expression of history, heritage and culture of the town of Ennis. This is one that came from our Ennis MD rep. So it involves, I suppose, the use of a QR quick response reader on each site, be it monument site or mural, You download the QR reader onto your phone, you tag or scan the barcode at the site, and it gives you all the information on that relevant site. So I'd say this project would be of interest to the culturally curious people, especially. And it's linked to priority 1 of Deep's innovation strategy, citizen-centric innovation, designing and delivering easy to use services informed by the right data. So finally then, the third one is a longer term, more advanced idea, and it came from our HR department, and it's with regard to the implementation of EPMDS. So although it is in that higher category, Alfie and our head of information and HR were working with another local authority who have already implemented such a system. And I suppose the key point here is that in relation to Deeper's third point, it's about scaling innovation and not reinventing the wheel. If there is a system there that works, it may require maybe slight adaptation to meet our requirements. But instead we are working and we're positive that we could have a solution there. I suppose I'm conscious that the above represent only a few examples of many other excellent submissions by the team, but I'm confident that the volume and quality of innovative ideas received is a really positive indicator that we're moving in the right direction with regard to embedding a culture of innovation across Clare County Council. And the key motivator, I think, for all of the team is that not alone will it add value to the customer experience, but will also provide additional benefits to all staff of Clare County Council. So on that note, I'll pass you back to Noeleen to.
Okay, thanks guys. As you can see, we've been fortunate here with a very strong team, and that is really what it's about. And also having representation across your local authority or across your organisation with your senior management and your various teams. Because as Niamh said, you want the staff who are at the coalface carrying out the work to feed back ideas. So we're still on a journey, but innovation and change, or as Niamh said, there's always a better way. It never stops. It always should be live and part of how we do our business. So that's really our experience. So Cillian or Jade, if you want to pick up on that.
Yeah, so I suppose from your perspective, Jade, if any questions come through or any thoughts that people might have in the audience, just to put them to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I do that, that was an absolutely brilliant presentation. And I think it really demonstrates how Clare County Council are making innovation real and raising the banner for innovation. And I think one thing that struck me from your presentation was the collaboration that was involved in developing the strategy. And I think using those digital tools that you referred to really supported that collaboration and perhaps enhanced it, which was great to see. I'm keen to see the progress of the strategy and how it's implemented and how you get on with it. And I know a lot of our colleagues watching today will be keen to see that too. I think the presentation showed that how the innovation strategy development process can be done, and I don't think it's as scary as it may appear. But I guess, Noeleen, you might be able to talk about any challenges you faced when developing the strategy, or if you did have any challenges at all when developing the strategy.
Okay, yeah, Jade, I can talk on that. I get. As Cillian said at the start of COVID, when we started the process, we were all remote working. So that remote element of the collaboration and engagement in the early stages was a challenge because it was a new way of doing business. So as it was, in what we were trying to do was going to require a lot of collaboration. But what became evident in the early stages was the tools that are out there. And that's the one thing that the pandemic has done to us. It has exposed us to a lot of technology or change in the way you do things, so that was really positive. The second challenge was understanding innovation. And as you've heard the speakers here today saying change, improvement, that's and it's not just business review. While we can look at different things we do within our own units, take, for example, we've had a great success here on a statutory requirement for ethics registers for members, and every year we issue 300 forms, and 300 forms come back, and 300 forms that we filled out. We moved that online, you know, during COVID, and straight away you're being more efficient, change the way you do things. But it's not just about that, and that was a challenge. You needed the right people in the room, and you needed to explain to people, it's thinking about how we do our business for the customer. It's about have we the right public infrastructure? Have we the right information out there in our county town for our historic sites? We all see, as we get back out into society and we go into hotels now, there is no more guest booklet in the room. Or even if you're in a bar or a restaurant and you might want to have the lunch menu, it's your QR code on the table that you scan to your mobile phone. It's your QR code in your hotel room. You know, some of us do still miss the local magazine or the local, you know, thing in the room to read, but it's the QR code. So, you know, why can't we have QR codes at various sites that are of interest? Because that's, for the tourist or for the visitor, that's the information. So again, it's that innovation. It's about, and it's not just about our own services. It's about the education, the health, because for us as local government, while some may say, well, health is the Department of Health, we still have to coordinate with those bodies because we are the local government in the county. And also the team. Having a strong team was definitely something you to get right at the start, because you're asking that team to go back out to their directors and their sections to work with the wider teams and to get buy-in, because you know you can't do this on its own, or you can. One person can go away and write this strategy along with Cillian and his team, but you're not going to get the implementation at the back end if you don't have the buy-in at the start. So everyone has to have that vision for the start. So that was definitely a challenge at the start, getting that right, but we've certainly overcome that. And so they were the main items, Jade, yeah? I think there's some other questions coming through as well.
Yeah, there was just on the nature of the team and putting the team together. How did you identify team members for the innovation strategy? Was it nominations or an open call for people to get involved? If anyone wants to talk to that.
Yeah, I suppose it was a mix. We spoke to each directorate, and I suppose we knew ourselves some staff that we worked with previously that we felt would fit well into this team. And yes, it was a mix of both really. And yeah.
And we've seen both as well, Jade. So from the different projects we would have done with the pilots when we put together the original strategy together by management teams, we've also seen them organically with applications. I think both equally works, but what I would say the secret sauce is it's got to be good coverage across the organization. So, you know, it needs to be the different divisions, the different teams right across, and also different levels. I remember when we did the work with the LGMA, we had 2 graduates join the innovation team, and the ideas that they had were fantastic because they weren't used to being in the LGMA. They had been, you know, out in college, they had just come in, they were using social media on a daily basis. They had, you know, very different ideas compared to maybe some of the more mid and senior level colleagues. So really good to see that. But I'd say, you know, really think about it from that perspective, because what you want is you want the spread of ideas. You want the spread of thoughts, so really think about that in the composition. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And then we're coming up to 1 o'clock, so I have one last question to wrap up. And Colette, you shared at one of the final slides was kind of the ideas bank, and you touched on a couple of ideas that Clare County Council are in the process of implementing and working on. But I guess going forward, how are Clare County Council going to continue to recognise the great ideas you know, that are put forward by staff or citizens in the area?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. I suppose the innovation team are key to that, and any idea that comes through will go through the innovation team, and we discussed, I suppose we'll check to see if it aligns with the 3 priorities outlined in Deeper's recommendations. No, we have, I suppose, I went through there with budget, training, the lunch and learn sessions, updates and banner bulletin, incentivizing innovation ideas, and agenda item and management team. The one thing I would say is that the call for ideas will be key. That will remain an ongoing process. And I suppose due to the nature of local authority, there's a constant changeover of staff. So there's people always coming maybe from the public or private sector. So we'll be encouraging, and I think it's important to get their previous experiences and knowledge, or maybe quick wins that we can implement in Clare. So I suppose just so that staff remain open to and feel comfortable sharing their ideas. So I think that will be key to it. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So I'd like to thank you all today. I think the presentation was brilliant, and it's definitely inspired a lot of our colleagues that have attended today who are maybe beginning their innovation journey, or have started the process already and need some tips and advice. We might get you back on in a couple of months to update us on your implementation and to share a couple more of your innovative ideas that you have. But yes, thank you to Cillian, Noeleen, Alfie, Colette and Niamh. Really great presentation, and we have recorded this session, so it will be available online hopefully this afternoon or early tomorrow. But yeah, so I'd like to thank you all for joining us, and thanks to all our attendees online. Sorry, Noeleen.
Sorry, Jade. Yeah, I just see the chat box, 1 or 2 questions there from Catherine Kelly. If we want to close out on those.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I can.
Yeah, so just in terms of the scorecard, so the question that's there from Catherine is, and I know we're just over time, but we can close on this. So in terms of who receives the scorecard, so there's a couple of ways you can do it. Either you can do it as a centralized team. So for example, if the innovation team is set up, you can run it that way. Alternatively, I have seen in other organizations that they actually ask different directorates or different team members from right across the organization to complete it. When we were working with the Department of Agriculture as part of the pilot program, we actually surveyed 1,200 of their staff. So there's all different ways you can do it. It just depends on what the most appropriate approach is, you know, to the organization itself. And in terms of can we share the slides, I'm sure we can review them. Maybe some cleansing on them, but we can get some sort of a pack out. There's no doubt about that. What I would say is that all of the materials, all the capabilities to be able to pull together your innovation strategy is available on OPS website. So please, folks, do use that, and it's a fantastic resource to stay.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Cillian. You've actually taken my closing sentence. So thank you for that. But yeah, again, just to remind everyone to visit the website and to reach out to us as well at innovation@per.gov.ie. So we will, like I said, share the recording of the session, and any materials that we can share, we will circulate them to all of the attendees later. I see more questions coming in, but what I might do is I might put them to the team in Clare County Council, and we can send them then later. We can send the answers then later on this afternoon when we communicate the recording with everybody, if that's okay. So I'll wrap up there, everybody, and thanks a lot for joining us for today's session. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks, Jay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.